Hello my friends and welcome to Monster Monday, the Dragon series. Today we're going to be talking about a mischievous, chaotic prankster known as the Copper Dragon. Okay guys, so Copper Dragons. I'm going to try to make this one short and sweet in terms of the description. You could always go online or read it in your own book. But essentially, the Copper Dragon is a chaotic good metallic dragon, which means they're a little bit iffy about the rules and the laws, and maybe a little bit iffy about being selfish or pranking people, messing with people. But I think that the Copper Dragon has amazing potential to be used in your adventures and your campaigns and encounters at any level. They like company. They like to be entertained. That's part of the reason why they're pranksters. That's part of the reason why they're mischievous and they sometimes get into trouble because, curiosity and having fun. They like having people entertain them with jokes and stories and music and song. A lot of times they will actually carve out a little part of their lair just to have entertainment. And even in the book, they say like they'll make space for a bard who's willing to entertain them, or maybe a group of entertainers. They are, however, pretty selfish when it comes to their treasures. They don't like people messing with it. They don't like people getting too close to it. And even some of their lair actions and their abilities have to do with kind of slowing people down and keeping them away. They're good, but they're chaotic good, which may mean in your games that your encounters might have something to do with them doing something that isn't necessarily the wisest move or the safest move, but it's entertaining and funny. So if your campaign needs a little bit of funny in it, or maybe you've been using a specific NPC to be that, comedic sidekick to the party, maybe there's a way for you to think about using a Copper Dragon in that role instead. Copper Dragons have two breath weapons, like all of the metallics. They have their offensive breath weapon that actually does real damage, and that is acid breath. That's a no fooling around kind of breath weapon. And then they have slowing breath. Now, I had to take a look at slowing breath because this is mechanically very interesting. And it's not meant to do damage as much as it is to slow people down. And the way it works is pretty incredible. And of course, like all other breath weapons, it scales as they get older and more powerful. So even with a Copper Dragon Wormling, let me explore this with you. Slowing breath. The dragon exhales gas in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in that area must succeed on a DC 11 con save. On a failed save, the creature can't use reactions. Its speed is halved, and it can't make more than one attack in a turn. In addition, the creature can use either an action or a bonus action on its turn, but not both. And that's just as a Wormling, right? Now, you might be like, well, Bill, DC 11's not a big deal. Hold those horses, buddy. The young Copper Dragon has slowing breath, 30-foot cone, DC 14 to save. The adult has slowing breath, 60-foot cone, DC 18 to save. And the ancient, 90-foot cone, DC 22 to save. I started thinking about the slowing breath thing as a defensive mechanism, right? So let's say that, there's a group of people kind of coming towards the dragon trying to make their move to attack it, or they're going towards the dragon's lair and the dragon doesn't want them to get to the lair. The Copper Dragon might use the slowing breath as that defense mechanism to preserve itself or protect its lair. But then I started to think about them as these, people who like to have guests. Now, a Copper Dragon who's chaotic good might perceive capturing people to make them entertain him or her as guests, but they're really prisoners in that context. So maybe the Copper Dragon doesn't want people to leave the party. Maybe the party has gone to this dragon's lair on its invitation. They're being entertained by a bunch of captured bards and performers. And then they're like, dude, we got to get out of here. This guy is crazy. And they're trying to leave, and the Copper Dragon does the slow breath on them to kind of keep them put, to keep them there. Now, you might be like, well, that's an evil move. It depends. I think with with the characterization of the Copper Dragon as the way that they're portrayed, it seems like they're tricksters. And tricksters sometimes can be a little bit jerky, a little bit douchey, but their heart is in the right place. It's just that maybe they don't see the same morality as a lot of other people see, or the same laws or rules applying to them or their actions. So where does this put the Copper Dragon in your world, and how can you use them? So the Copper Dragon could be that comedy component in your campaign. But the Copper Dragon could also be, and this is a variation that I kind of liked, I kind of glommed onto it. The Copper Dragon could just be lonely. The Copper Dragon could be lonely and in need of friends, in need of company, but is that tragic clown character who always manages to screw things up at the most critical of moments, and not intending to betray their friends or make them angry, but just to have some fun. And I think if we really think deeply, we can find those kind of characters in movies and in books, where they're a good person, but they just screw up all the time, and they're guilty of the crime of trying to have fun. And sometimes when they have fun, they don't realize that the consequences of them having fun are that their friends might get in trouble or somebody might get hurt. I think it's easy to use the Copper Dragon as a comedic device in your stories. But I think it's even better if you could figure out a way to use this comedic device, but also kind of insert a little bit of that subtext in there about this lonely soul who just wants company, who wants to be friends with the party, but screws up and needs to be forgiven. And will your parties forgive the Copper Dragon? Will they make friends with the Copper Dragon? Will they try to help the Copper Dragon when the Copper Dragon is screwed up so big that there are real consequences? Like maybe it's pissed off a really powerful lich, or another dragon, or some giant, or a powerful wizard, or a king. You know, how far will that go? I think it's got real story potential. All right, one more variation that I kind of thought of as funny. And this might apply more to the wormlings and the young Copper Dragons, but I see them as being kind of like needy and wanting things and maybe a little selfish, almost like a spoiled rich kid. Like they see something that they want and they keep pestering the party like, come on, I want it. Just give it to me. Just give it to me.
I want it. Come on, give me it. Give me it. Give me it. Come on, give me it. I'm sorry. Please. Please.
See what I mean? I think that could work. So I think like you could use a Copper Dragon wormling in an encounter where the party's moving through this hilly, rocky area, and this Copper Dragon wormling comes out and, maybe takes something of theirs that's important. It doesn't have to be a weapon or a, magical ring. It could be like their pack mule with supplies. Or it could be one of their spell books or a backpack or something. And they hide it way up high on a cliff, and you have to answer their riddle. And if you don't answer it, they're not going to give you the backpack or the mule or your best friend back. So, they're kind of that sort of prankster thing, having fun with things. And maybe your party decides like, dude, we're not playing your stupid game or answering your riddle, and they kill it. That reveals something about your party. Are they playing their characters in character? Or maybe they play along and they befriend this spoiled brat of a Copper Dragon wormling. Or maybe they try to attack it and it flees away and it's like, I'm going to tell my big brother on you. Flip the page. Now you bring out the young Copper Dragon. And the young Copper Dragon is kind of like a little bit of a haughty, spoiled rich kid, but with a little more maturity, who takes the pranking to another level, right? Like maybe it picks up the most hubris-filled, prideful character in the party, strips them naked, and drops them off in the middle of a city, naked, because it can, or on the roof of a inn. But the pranking could have a lot of depth. You could think about ways in which the pranking doesn't have to be on the party. Maybe the party makes friends with the Copper Dragon, and then the Copper Dragon pranks some important official, or the king, or a powerful wizard, right? And now they've pissed off the wrong person. A lot of opportunities to generate little side stories in your campaign using Copper Dragons. Now, I do like the lonely Copper Dragon idea, and I thought there's a way to integrate that, that creates story. So maybe you pick an age class of a Copper Dragon, and that Copper Dragon is the last of its family in this area, or even on the whole continent. And maybe that's because there were wars or something, or, an ancient kingdom that, hunted and killed all the dragons. So this is like the last of his kind, and he's just lonely, or maybe it's a mother, an adult Copper Dragon or an ancient Copper Dragon, and she was like the mother of her family, and again, some evil bad guys like killed all of her offspring, and she's the last of her kind, and she just wants to, be friends with people, and even though she's older and wiser, she's still got that prankster spirit in her. And if you're having trouble generating ideas, maybe think of like the fairies and the fays, who they're good, but they're chaotic good, and they like to do pranks and play tricks and that kind of stuff. So I think those are all really cool options. And there are a lot of different ways that you could play the Copper Dragon and have them be included in your campaign, and it would be really cool. Really quick, just want to go over the layer actions. The dragon chooses a point on the ground that it can see within 120 feet of it. Stone spikes sprout from the ground in a 20-foot radius. So there's, again, that almost like spike growth. They could just, right, defenses, preventing people from getting to their treasure hoard. The dragon chooses a 10-foot square area around and within 120 feet of it. The ground in that area turns into a 3-foot deep mud. Each creature on the ground in the area when the mud appears must succeed on a DC 15 dex save or sink into the mud and become restrained. Again, more defensive ways of slowing people down or keeping them away from the lair. Now let's look at the regional effects. Magic carvings of the dragon's smiling visage can be seen worked into the stone terrain and objects within 6 miles of the dragon's lair. Tiny beasts, such as rodents and birds that are normally unable to speak, gain the magical ability to speak and understand Draconic while within 1 mile of the dragon's lair. These creatures speak well of the dragon, but can't divulge its whereabouts. Intelligent creatures within 1 mile of the dragon's lair are prone to fits of giggling. Even serious matters suddenly seem amusing. You can almost foreshadow the dragon's lair being nearby by integrating these little things. Maybe the party is on their way to some adventure and they're traveling through this rocky, hilly terrain, and one of them just starts like giggling like mad. Or maybe they encounter a group of travelers or traders along the way and they're all having laughing fits, and the party's like, what the hell is going on with these people? And then the laughing fits die down. And then you find whoever in your party has Draconic as a language, and you have the birds start talking to it in Draconic. And nobody else can understand except the person or people who speak Draconic. So you start introducing these things even before they meet the dragon. Cool. Same thing with the magic carvings. Imagine they're going through this rocky area, and on a cliff face you see like a smiling dragon etched into the stone. Or some kind of Stonehenge monument thing, and there's a smiling dragon face etched into the stone. A boulder. All of these are ways that you can tease the dragon being nearby without even revealing the dragon as of yet. And then maybe, one or more of these dragons at different age levels comes and messes with the party, or plays a trick on them, or takes something that they need and forces them to play, to solve their riddle. Or maybe there are bards in your party, or people of other classes who have the entertainer background, and while they're in a camp not too many miles away from the dragon's lair, they're performing, they're singing, they're playing their lute, and the dragon scopes this out and is like, oh yeah, and they're kind of trying to get some free entertainment, and that's how they first encounter the dragon. Many, many, many options with the Copper Dragon, but hopefully this has been informative or helpful. And if you have great stories to share about using Copper Dragons in your campaign, or if you've played in games where you've dealt with Copper Dragons and encountered them, please share your stories in the comments below. I like to read them, and so do the rest of the people in the community. So, until we meet again, happy dragons.